Well, hello, everybody. We are at our final episode. It's with Jen. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing probably better than you at this point, Richard.
We did the marathon today, and I don't know if you got a chance to check out some of the guests we had, but we had so many inspirational people on it. I mean, I've learned so much today, Jen. I just can't describe what went on, but this is one of my favorite days of the year. I got to say, it's like I get so excited for this. I was dancing at 11:50 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't start till 1 o'clock because there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's just we have so much fun with it. It's just it's a day to be inspired. I really believe that. And before we start, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor. It's Toothman Ford down in Grafton, West Virginia. They sponsored the whole day, so I want to thank them.
Fantastic.
They give so much back. If anybody needs a Bronco or the new Maverick or whatever, stop down to see them. But God bless them for helping us out today. So, Jen, here we are, final episode, and
That's
now
right.
it's time to have some fun. So, I'll tell you what, let's just deep dive into a little bit about yourself first, and then we can go into stats, and we can go into the organization and everything else. And I think we can wrap up at midnight. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Well, first of all, I appreciate it, and thank you to Toothman Ford, and thank you to you. I mean, this is a big, it's a long day, and it's it's sometimes can be very challenging listening to all the stories and witnessing what everybody has been through. I mean, it's a challenging disease, breast cancer, but I like that you do this every year. This is your second year, so that's very exciting. A little bit about me is that I was diagnosed when I was 36 and I'm now 57, which I'm very grateful to be 57. And, but this was in the year 2000 when I was diagnosed, and it was challenging to find other survivors, particularly young survivors. So I just went about and tried to collect young women, which I surprisingly found a lot of young women that were diagnosed in Pittsburgh. And so we started a group, and we called it the Young Women's Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation. And we basically met just for social support. We would meet at Panera, we would meet at restaurants, and we would just do I call them cancer friends, because it's really incredibly hard to go through this alone. And there are many people, that want to support you and love you, your family, your friends, but they don't necessarily understand what you're dealing with. And sometimes it's very scary to, some of the thoughts that you feel and you think, you don't always want to share with your family, because it'll make them afraid, So for 20 years, I've been meeting in Paneras and restaurants and just working with women and just trying to create a safe space for women to talk about what they're facing, what they're dealing with. And we try to offer support. So then we became a 501(c) in 2005, and we just started raising money as well. So we gave money to the American Cancer Society and McGee Women's Hospital and a variety of different places. And it just became pretty clear that this cancer is expensive. So we started giving private grants to individuals in Pittsburgh that have been diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 50. So we've been doing that for probably like 7 or 8 years, I think. And so it's been quite a journey. And like you, as you sit there and talked and you've learned so much, and you've been inspired by these women of what they've endured, and you get to see the human spirit. The human spirit is like so powerful. And we talked yesterday, and you seem to have like this just innate positive, you're just an amazing person with a lot of energy. And, to witness that is pretty cool. And to see these women, and just talk to them about what they're enduring, whether it's chemotherapy or radiation or just progression and just the scary, scary things that are going on. We just try to be a support for them. I really believe in a couple of things, and emotional support is really important to me, because I feel that if you have emotional support, whether it's through the hospital or whether through my foundation or through I also work for Cancer Bridges, which provides free emotional support as well. And I know people watching this across the country, in most major cities in the country, there's free emotional support for all types of cancer patients. So I really encourage people to seek it out, because it's incredibly hard to do this alone, and you don't need to do it alone. A couple other things that I wanted to share with you is that many women feel that they, in their 20s and 30s, don't think that they can get breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not true. I think you probably have heard that from many women today. We have women in their 20s, early 20s, that are getting breast cancer. And it's not just folks that have a genetic mutation. And you probably have heard this today as well, that a lot of people think, oh, breast cancer doesn't run in my family, I'm not really worried about it. And many women in their 20s and 30s have no family history. I myself did not have a family history. So, it can make it very surprising, and people don't, they aren't looking. So it is important to, you don't get mammograms typically until 40. But if you do have a family relative that has been diagnosed, usually what they do is back you up 10 years. So like I was diagnosed at 36, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter, she should start her screenings at 26. So that's sort of the rule of thumb. And then you should also ask to be genetically tested if there is a, family history and you want to be aware. Some of the other things that I think are important to understand, a lot of people don't realize that, cancer in the breast will not kill you. It's when it leaves the breast and it becomes metastatic. And metastatic is, it typically travels to the brain, the bone, the liver, or the lungs. And, it just becomes a much more difficult problem. And there is no cure for metastatic breast cancer. So that is, obviously we want to do everything that we can to cure cancer, but at least prevent it from becoming metastatic. And so there's been a big movement in the breast cancer world to try to get more funding into metastatic research, because right now there's a small percentage, probably less than 10%, that's getting funded into metastatic. So we are all campaigning to try to get more funding into metastatic research. And some of the other things is just to advocate for yourself. I mean, I really talk to women about, even getting second opinions, or just how to talk to your doctor, or if you have a concern and it's not being addressed. I mean, there were a lot of women in chemo chairs next to me that were turned away, not turned away, but like their doctor would say, oh, you're too young for breast cancer, I wouldn't worry about it, I think it's just a cyst, or something like that. And if they were concerned, you really just need to keep pushing, and so it is, and it can make a difference to advocate. And so a lot of times it's very hard for women, particularly once they've been diagnosed. It's very scary, but it is really helpful to have a loved one or, somebody come with you to all of your doctor's appointments. And if that isn't the case, you can you can ask for a patient navigator. Many hospitals have patient navigators or nurse navigators that will help you. And then, be able to describe things a little bit better, because sometimes it's very, when you hear the word cancer, everything sort of just goes blank.
Yes.
And, your ability to comprehend kind of goes out the window. But, I've had the pleasure of being able to work with these women over, obviously no one wants cancer, but it is very important to be able to just, walk alongside these women and try to help them and try to find ways to make their lives better. We do run support groups, which we do on Zoom. In a few weeks, we have an oncologist that'll be coming on that will,
Nice.
talk about updates, and just really, I really value education and being able to talk to a lot of these medical professionals, because as you probably know, when you go to the doctor, you really don't have that much time with the physician, and and there's a lot of things to go over, and sometimes you walk out of there thinking, oh, I forgot to ask this, and this.
Exactly.
And so we try to create opportunities for that. But
wow.
Yeah,
Go for it, Jen. Go for it. You got words of knowledge. I'm just sitting back, relaxing now. On the final episode, it's all you, Jen.
Yeah. So I really just, we have a website and a Facebook page, and we have a private Facebook page if anybody is interested in joining us there. I did focus a lot on the younger women, which I still do. I advocate for younger women, but everybody is welcome in our group and in any of our educational meetings, because I think everybody should be educated and learn how to advocate. You know, and it's just, you know, it's a really challenging experience and can be devastating. And so we just try to hold people's hands and try to do as much as we can. And you know, I have been fortunate enough to work with a lot of individuals in Pittsburgh that really have just a lot of resources. So people will reach out to me for just, I don't know, like any specific issues, or they might be having you know, they just need support in a different area.
Mm-hmm.
So just try to connect people but it's amazing to see the strength. And I'm sure you know, will walk away when you're drinking your wine tonight, you will walk away thinking, wow, like that was just freaking amazing. Because, you know, when you talk to these women and see what they overcome on a daily basis. Like I had breakfast with a friend the other day she's metastatic, and she's been metastatic for 9 years. Now the average, like typically when women are diagnosed metastatic, the lifespan is 36 months. So it's not good, but thankfully she has lived 9 years, but she has received chemotherapy every 3 weeks for 9 years. You know, and
Wow.
she has a family, and she has, you know, she has joy in her life. She is, you know, she laughs, we enjoy each other, and she just, it's, you know, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it. I mean, and the weird thing is, and maybe some folks have shared this with you today, a lot of metastatic women have hair. Like they look like you and I. They don't look like the traditional, like, you know, metastatic person did years ago. A lot of the medicines are very targeted so that you may not lose your hair. And so it is, you know, so we tend to believe that person's okay. You know, you have your hair, you must be fine. So it's a really weird space. And I was, you know, discussing this with her too, is that, you know, people think that, you know, you look okay, so they expect everything of you, but yet this person has been undergoing chemo, you know, every 3 weeks for 9 years. I mean, it really, you know, affects the rest of, it affects the rest of your body as well. So, you know, things start to break down. You have heart issues, you know, bone issues. I mean, there's just a lot of things because of the medicines, and you know, sometimes because of the cancer as well. But you know, I mean, you've seen the power today. I'm sure in every single conversation you have seen, like you walk away thinking, holy smokes, like, how do they do it? Like, how do they just get up in the morning? How do
The energy, Jen, is so high. I don't even know, like, you know, playing football and getting hurt. Every person that was on the show today, the energy was so high, the will and the hope. It was the will. It's like we refuse to lose, and just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I just, you know, many days I just like sit back and just, you just take it all in, and it's unbelievable. I mean, my own experience, you know, there were times where I wanted to quit chemotherapy just because it was very challenging. And, you know, and you're in this black hole, and you don't think that there's ever going to be a way out, you know, like you just think, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel like this forever. And thankfully, you know, I was able to progress and come out and to be okay. And, but, you know, some people are stuck in that stage, and it's hard. It's extremely hard. And they want to still have a life. They want to be able to engage with their kids. They want to take their kids, you know, to a Halloween parade at school. They want to, you know, go to their basketball games, and they want to, you know, go see their kids go to the prom or whatever, you know, because these are young women raising children, you know, and their kids don't stop, you know, they don't say, oh, okay, let's, you know, you can't really tell a 2-year-old, like, I'm exhausted, you know, you got to find something else to do. So, but we really try to do whatever we can to support these women, and, you know, through grants, and then just through different types of outreach that we do. Last year, in COVID, we provided a lot of Thanksgiving meals as well as Christmas meals, so that these women didn't have to cook. And, you know, it was pretty challenging, and that, you know, we were deep into COVID at that point. We do things like last year, but well, there was in the beginning of 2020, we made handmade blankets, and they were really fun. Those really big chunky blankets, and
Mhm.
we then we gave them to all of the kids that had lost their moms for Mother's Day, and so that was just really touching,
Nice.
and they were really touched, and just I mean, just try to do whatever we can, just to support women.
That's awesome. So I got to ask you, and you know this better than anybody. What's the youngest age that you've seen has been diagnosed? I'm curious to find out what, I mean, they say all ages, but what's the youngest you've seen out there?
Well, the youngest that I personally have met is 18. We've had women in 20, 22, 23, that type of thing.
Hmm.
But and and obviously that's not the majority of the women, but it is possible. And the one woman that was 18 did have a genetic mutation. But you should just know your breasts, and check your breasts for lumps, and for anything that just feels unusual. There are a lot of other things, like you can have almost like it's almost like a dimpling, or your skin actually looks kind of like an orange, and that's a
Okay.
signal. There are many many signals other than just a lump. So it and it and really advocate for yourself if you really feel like something is off or wrong. Talk to the doctor. Typically go to your gynecologist or your PCP, and then if they aren't addressing it or taking you seriously, then I encourage you to just continue. Either go to another doctor or reach out to an advocate like myself and try to work through it. And but because you definitely want to find it as early as possible, if it is cancer.
And if they call you as an advocate, you can guide them in the right direction, which may be, doctor to go to, what facility for them to help them out, because some people this might be they have nobody to help them out and guide them. They don't know where to go.
Right. I don't make medical decisions, and
Mhm.
I don't coach people on that, but I will offer, what, depending on where they live. I don't, my scope is just mainly Pittsburgh, but it does reach a little bit further out of there. But yeah, if they, we talk about their health insurance and what their options are, where they can go, and that kind of stuff. And then, and getting a second opinion. Sometimes, a woman walks away from an appointment with a physician, and it just doesn't, it just doesn't feel right, or it's just not matching. And so, and the whole experience is awful. You're never going to feel good when you're in that doctor's office, right?
Oh,
But you do want to try to find someone who will, you can communicate with, and that, and many times, different, doctors have different personalities. They're very driven, because they wouldn't be a doctor if they weren't. It's quite a bit of education and sacrifice. And so, and then doctors are busy. Many of these doctors are seeing 20, 30 patients a day. And that's all cancer patients. So you have to really try to, I really encourage women to educate themselves, and whether it's through particular websites online, or a lot of hospitals will give you information as well. Coming to the groups. We never tell you like what to do, but we can share our experiences, and also help you with side effects, and tell you just tips on how to deal with things. For instance, like a lot of people will get a metal taste in their mouth from chemotherapy, and Good
ooh.
and Plenty's will sort of negate that taste. So, there's just a lot of things to learn. I tell people, like, getting a cancer diagnosis is like being dropped in a foreign country, and everyone's saying these words, and you don't understand the language, and now you're asked to make a major decision, a major life decision. So it's overwhelming. So I would encourage anybody that's out there that's listening to find support, find cancer friends, try to find, they're all over the country, no matter where you are. Try to find either a group like mine, or there are many, even like national companies that provide support, but there's a lot out there. It doesn't take long to find it.
Awesome. So Jen, I got to ask you, men, breast cancer men. I've seen it today. We've been talking about it a little bit. have you seen like numbers going up for men?
I don't know specifically about the numbers, but yes, men do get breast cancer, and they are about 15% of the entire population of breast cancer patients. And it is, a lot of people, again, almost like young women, some men are turned away because even physicians are like, you don't have breast, you can't have breast cancer. Yeah. And actually for next year, I have a guy, Kirby, that's just unbelievable. He's an amazing advocate that I met several years back at a educational symposium. And he lives in West Virginia, and he has been, he has metastatic breast cancer, and he is just amazing. And he's, advocating for men and trying to educate men as much as possible. And he taught me, like, he posted something on Facebook the other day, and he, because when we were at this conference, this was an educational conference about breast cancer, but almost every presenter talked about she. Well, there were, I think, 2 or 3 men in the room that, were living with breast cancer. And he, Kirby was like, wait, like, you can't, like, so he, he was in the minority, and he just to be ignored. There's not a lot of research done on men, and the male body is completely different. I mean, so many breast cancers are driven by hormones, and men have hormones, but it's a very different makeup. So what is the solution? Can you imagine, like, having a cancer that, you're the minority in, and virtually no research is done on your, type of body.
Wow.
So, and I have 3 sons, and as I stated before, like, if you're genetically, like, if you're being watched because you have a relative that has had breast cancer, you typically, back up 10 years and start screening then. Well, I just kind of figured, with the 3 sons, I don't have to worry about it. And he's like, that's really, not accurate thinking, because your sons do have, risk of getting breast cancer, and they should be aware, and you should educate them. And, he was right. And I met him probably 17 years into my journey. And so he taught me something new that day that I was really grateful for. So I think we need to set him up for you next year.
Oh, I love that already. We're getting ready for next year.
Yeah.
Only 364 days away, right?
You have a pretty full dance card already.
Oh, that's okay. Keep bringing it on. We may have 48 hours of this instead of 24. Jen, what would you tell, like, anybody that is just like, maybe they got diagnosed in the last maybe month? I really want to touch on that sometimes, and I think you're a good expert for this, is like, they have nowhere to go. They don't know who to talk to. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, I think you bring up a really good question, because there's when you're diagnosed until you get a treatment plan, there's a really, I call it limbo. And it's this area where you really don't know exactly all the details about your cancer, and you really don't have a plan. Because I do think emotionally and mentally, once you get a plan, like saying, okay, well, we're going to do chemo, or we're going to do surgery, or whatever is appropriate for that particular woman or man, I don't want to leave anybody out, then it sort of feels, you sort of you're a little settled, because you want to actively fight. You want to be like, it's helpful for your brain and your emotions to want to be moving forward. So I would encourage people not to go searching online, for everything, but also, I mean, I actually called the American Cancer Society quite a bit, because they have a 24-hour line. And you can ask them questions about, like, if you get your pathology report. And that's the other thing is, like, when I was diagnosed, we didn't have apps on our phone. I mean, we didn't have an iPhone. Mm-hmm. And so some women are actually finding out that they have cancer by looking at an app. And
You're kidding.
No. And they're not even being told by a doctor. They're looking at their app, and it's like, you have breast cancer on the phone, or on the app. You can set your phone up. I don't know about all health systems, but I know some of the ones here that you can set your phone up that you you will not get a report until a doctor has called you or blessed off on it. But many women don't have that setting or even know that it's available. And it's shocking. It's really shocking to be able to get that news and not have anybody to sort of say, listen, okay, here's what we're going to do. We have a plan. We're going to get you through this. Like, let's just take it one step at a time, because your head, as you can imagine, your head just starts swirling. So, I mean, I would reach out to a trusted individual. Yeah, many hospitals have patient navigators, and they're excellent. You want to find people who know what they're talking about. You don't want to just, because a lot of times, if you get set up with sometimes, people tell you like these horrible stories. It's sort of like pregnancy or some of the, they get scared when you tell them these things too. So, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to a trusted source, and, try to get some support that way. But then just, and there are many, many advocates across the country. I mean, you can certainly reach out to me. I don't have the answers for everybody across the country, but in Pittsburgh, I can definitely help. But, and then you just take it one step at a time. I mean, I think it's really, really important not to like project like a year down the road, or, oh my gosh, all this is going to happen. You just try to like say, okay, this is what I have to do today. These are the decisions I have to make. And this is the information I have to collect. And then I'm just going to try to get to tomorrow in one piece, because it's overwhelming and it's extremely frightening. But it is important to pay attention and to be part of I really try to encourage women to be part of the decision-making team, but to ask questions and to make sure that you understand what's happening. What are the options? If this is what they're suggesting your course of action is, how did you come to that? Are there any tools there right now? There's, compared to when I was diagnosed to now, there are many, many, tests that they can use to find out more and more about your cancer, whether it's genetic or just information. Like there's a test called Oncotype, which will actually sort of give you a score as to whether or not your cancer is likely to come back. And the more likely it is to come back, then you typically will get chemotherapy and agents along that line. If it has a very low score, then they may say, at this point, you don't need chemotherapy, because we really feel from, and they test these things, go through clinical trials. So they're tested for years and years before they're put into the market with the general public, but not all hospitals give them. And that's the shocking thing. Like a lot of times I was working with a woman up here, and she was moving down south, and the medication that she was taking up here, the doctor in the South wasn't aware of. He hadn't heard of it. And so, you want to go to a larger hospital, preferably a teaching hospital where they're doing clinical trials and where they're, trying to learn and push them, try to get the best treatment possible for you. And you can get second opinions. I mean, you can call other hospitals, particularly when you're young. I really think it's important. I mean, it's important to everybody, but, many of the women in my group have young children, and, they just want to maximize their life for as long as possible to get, as many good years as they can.
You guys do such a great job. I tell you what, Jen, as we wind down here, and I'm getting tired, you probably know that by now, but I mean, is there anything that you would like to elaborate on before we wrap everything up for this whole day? I mean, I've seen it all, Jen, today. And I really, like I said, at the end of the day, it's about will and hope. And I hope everybody that has watched our podcast just, gets some, spread the awareness is the big thing. And then if go get tested, that's the biggest thing. Guys and girls, go get tested. If you feel something's wrong with you.
I mean, I know, well, first and foremost, I want to thank you, because I really think this is just amazing.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's a big commitment of time for you. And, I'm sure you're exhausted, and it does really educate people and help people to understand a little bit more about breast cancer. And if one person goes for a mammogram that, didn't before, then that's a huge win. A lot of women are afraid to get mammograms. Like I remember sharing with one of my neighbors, and she's like, when I had an event where I spoke, and she had heard my story, which I really had never told her before. And the next day at the bus stop, she said, I made an appointment for my mammogram. I was afraid, but now I recognize that, I saw what you did, and I think, I know that I can do this too. So just, I mean, like you said, just go for your regular screenings, keep track of your body. If something is different, reach out and advocate for yourself, but also just to try to find joy in the moment. I mean, as I'm sure many of the women that you have talked to today, women and men, have shared that, as horrible as things are, you still have to look for joy. You have to look for joy every day and try to find something. I mean, there's a rainbow in every day, and if you try to look for it, it will that sort of gives you the spark to continue on. And and there's so many loving people around. Sometimes I think it's really hard for your family. Sometimes they get scared and they sort of back away.
Yes.
But there's still a lot of people out there that are willing to help. You just need to reach out for them, and you're always welcome to email me.
There it is. Jen's got the open door policy. One thing I did learn today, Jen, is that you have to take it in baby steps. And I've learned that from so many speakers today that, you know what, let's not look 5 years down the road. Let's take one day at a time. I think when you look at the longevity, they feel like that's too much. Let's just take 1 week at a time. What do you think of that real quick before we finish up?
I agree. I think that it's important. I think that we spend too much time thinking about the future that we're not enjoying today. And even though today is scary, like I can remember, trying to look for the silver lining. Like when I was going through treatments, I mean, I had 3 little kids, and it was funny because my husband was like, we haven't spent this much time alone together. And because he was coming to my appointments with me. So, I mean, even though that's not the way we would have chosen, it was still a kind of a nice benefit. And so you just have to reorient yourself to try to, this is happening. I'm going through this, and then I'm just going to really try to find the bright spots in it and live your best life. Because as I'm sure everybody has said today, I mean, it's not a dress rehearsal. This is it, so do the best that you can. And seek out for help. I mean, don't go through this alone.
So true. Hey, Jen, I want to thank you for coming on. Life is so short. If we learn anything today, life is short. Just enjoy every minute of it, no matter who you are, and one other thing I want to, I can keep going on and on is I think the kids that are involved in this, if their mothers are diagnosed or something like that, we got to support them too. I really found out, Jen, today that the children are affected big time on this. And that's something that we have to step up and be an advocate for too.
I agree. That's an excellent point. I work with a woman who helps children in Pittsburgh, and it's amazing. And it is hard to find. That's not always. My dog's just about ready to bark. She wants to go outside.
At closing time.
But there is support available for your kids, and that's really, really important. And people always say kids are resilient, which I agree, but they also need tools. They also need support. They also need, I think, just getting coping tools and ways to communicate with your mom. There are tons of books out there too that you can get for your little kids and for teenagers that can really help start a conversation and really help to, make it easier for you to talk to your kids about the diagnosis. And I know it's scary, and I know no one wants to scare their kids, but they know something's going on, and so it is important to sort of address that elephant in the room the best way you can. And there's tons of tools, even on on my YouTube page, we have a video from a child life specialist that came to speak at our Zooms. And I mean, whatever support you can get is critical. It's helpful.
Awesome. And then I'm going to always say it. That's a wrap. We are done for another year. 2021 is in the books. But remember, this is throughout the whole year. We spread the awareness. Hey, Jen, thank you again. Thank everybody who's on the show, sponsors, everything like that. And there it is. We'll see you in 2022. See you guys later. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks.